What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. So, I did see quite a few comments on the previous arbitration video saying, this is all well and good, but I play the game solo, and I want to farm kuva solo, so how do I do that? Well, if you don't want to do the Wukong semi-AFK method from a few months ago for farming steel essence, we've got a new one today, and this actually ended up becoming a lot more ridiculous than I originally expected it to be. So, we'll be going over Helminth Ivara today. We'll be utilizing some really big damage. Expect to be one-shotting acolytes and pretty much everything else along the way when you use this setup. Before we get into it though, make sure you're sub and all that kind of stuff. Alright, so Helminth Ivara, we are going to be replacing, you can replace whatever ability you feel like. I decided to replace her fourth ability, the Artemis Bow, but of course there's also the Navigator, which I basically never use as well. That will be, pretty useless ability for what we're doing here, which is basically just insta-killing all enemies at all times. So we've replaced her 4 with Eclipse, and you could definitely replace it too, like I said, but what we've got here is Eclipse from Mirage. So standing in the darkness will give you 75% damage reduction, and standing in the light will give you increased damage, scaling the power strength. So we've got a good amount of power strength on here. We have a 338% damage increase on weapons. And there's something to keep in mind. When you do see that 338, it is not always giving you that full 338. The intensity of the light that you're standing in actually influences that buff. It's not very easy to tell how much of that buff you've gotten, but it is what it is. Thankfully, with our Prowl ability, we have a cheese method of always getting big damage when you go in Viz. So basically, we'll talk about that in a second. So, Navigator is pretty much useless. You can replace the 2 if you want to instead. And then we've got Quiver, another important ability for this setup. We're using the Empowered Quiver Dash Wire Augment mod. So what this one will do is, when you are on the Dash Wire, the little arrow thing you shoot out, you do increase critical damage, and that's from the Augment mod. It does not normally do this. Additionally, if you stand in the Cloaking Bubble, you will be immune to stasis, also scaling this with power strength. So here's the build. Now, I would definitely recommend that you make the arcane decisions that you want to run. If you want to run Prime Sure-Footed on this build, be my guest. The way that we're playing, we're basically on a dash wire in the corner blowing everything away, and the shots that we're firing off are not close enough to knock us down most of the time. So I did not find Prime Sure-Footed necessary, but you can definitely run if you still want to. So Empowered Quiver, the augment I told you about, I think comes from like New Loka and Arbors of Hexus, and that will scale with power strength. So 100% crit damage, also scaling with power strength. We've got 225% increased crit damage with this, not even that high of power strength build, 226. So with this big damage, we got 338 from the Eclipse. We've got 225 crit damage from Quiver, and then if you ever hit a headshot for some reason, you've got increased headshot multiplier from Prowl as well. So that's going to be a lot of the buffing here. Let's show how this works, and we're going to talk about some tricks, tips and tricks with Ivara to get ridiculously high damage. Now let's pretend that the cat buff isn't there. So we're going to show you how this works. So summon in some level 185 bombards. Enemies don't really matter. We're going to show Steel Path gameplay just to prove that it is pretty useful and effective. So, okay, let's look at this right now. So we are going to cast Eclipse. See how it says 338% damage increase? That's because we're in the light. If we were to run into the dark over here, it goes to 75% damage reduction. Now here's how you can cheese it. See, if we were to go between the light and the dark, it goes back and forth. Well, what you want to do is you want to go invisible while your light buff is active. Use your Prowl. Now if we would go over into that spot that was the dark, we are still in the light, technically, according to the game's logic. So you can keep your big damage buff on Ivara as long as you recast the ability before the duration ends. So as you can see right here, it's about to run out. We're at 7 seconds, going to recast it. I keep my Eclipse damage buff even though we are probably in the dark. Yeah, this is definitely the dark over here. So that's a way you can do it. Just make sure you recast it. And then we're going to jump on the dash wire. Something to keep in mind, you cannot cast Eclipse while on the dash wire. So you want to actually jump in the air to recast it, then jump back on the dash wire to keep your damage going. So we're going to get into a good spot up here that the enemies aren't going to be anywhere near us. And now we can just bombard them from above with whatever weapon of choice you want to use. So we've got the Kuva Brahma currently. Also got the Glaive Prime to get some big slash procs. There's a 500k right there. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, you get in the dash wire, you blow stuff up. Make sure you refresh your buff whenever it's about to go low so you can keep your damage. Now look at that. Like I took the invis off. Now I've gone back into damage reduction. That's that's the failure of this. So you don't want to lose your damage buff, because we don't need damage reduction. We're in an invis in the corner, like an enemy will probably never even look up there. If they do look up there, they're going to get blown away immediately. All right, so let's go ahead and show how this works in mission, and we're going to talk about some other stuff with Ivara. As far as builds and all that for the weapons, we've got videos on the Kuva Brahma on the channel. I don't have a Glaive Prime video. I'll probably make one of those coming up pretty soon. But here we are. This is 35 minutes nearly into a Steel Path Grenadier Survival, and, you know, we're just kind of chilling in here. So you just blow away the room. The Kuva Brahma and Prime Firestorm, you can cover a huge area, and thankfully, if you get a good angle like this, you can actually slide down to grab ammo very easily. Yeah, there's me getting... So the AoE on the Brahma is so massive that you might actually knock yourself off the arrow from across the room, but, it depends what kind of spot you're going to be sitting in. So, yeah, you can just do this all day long, pretty much. You're doing so much damage. We've got a Hunter Munitions build on here. It didn't one-shot the Acolyte, but if you had a Corrosive build, it would easily one-shot the Acolyte. And honestly, the Corrosive build will probably just one-shot these Grenadier too. So just go with the Corrosive upfront damage build with all the extra crit damage. Like, think about it, like crit damage mods. Like, I think the highest one, at least for rifles, is like Vital Sense at 120%. So we're getting nearly double the stats of Vital Sense from just standing on our dash flyer, being a you're just chilling on the wall, basically. Just it's kind of silly the way that this gameplay plays. But, yeah, this is how it works. Oh, something to keep in mind with Ivara. I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this, but while you are in Viz with Ivara, you want to make sure your weapons are silenced. So there's mods called, like Hush, an Excellus mod. There's also mods like, I don't remember the other ones, like Silent Battery, I think it's for shotguns. That will make it so your weapon is silent. You will not lose in Viz. If you're running around with a not silenced weapon, one shot will make you drop in Viz. That's really, really bad for this playstyle. You're losing your big damage buff from Eclipse. You're going to get shot and probably insta-kill by the enemies, even when you're hiding in the corner like this. And it's just not going to be good. So make sure you put Hush on your Brahma, on your Ogress, your whatever. Let's see how this Acolyte attack with Limbo goes here. So, that was pretty good from across the room. 2 shots, not too bad, honestly. So yeah, make sure you bring a Smita Cat to potentially get double Steel Essence from that kind of situation. And let's go over some other weapons you can do, because this is some of the highest damage stuff in the game. I'm probably not making it sound too crazy exciting right now, just because it's pretty simple. You cast your buff, you jump on the dash wire, you blow up the room. You do that for 6 hours straight, and you're officially a Warframe player. So let's show some other weapons here. Now, one of the craziest ones, here's the Hush mod, by the way. Make you reduce enemy chance to hear your gunfire by 100%. One of the craziest ones you can do on this is the Kuva Shakur. Now, this thing is not exactly an AoE monster. It's more of like a 1 to 2 target kind of gun, but it has such high crit chance, and it's also got guaranteed impact procs, making it really crazy with internal bleeding. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to, I don't even think the arcane, let's just do it with no arcane. We'll do it Deadhead, actually. So Deadhead, giving us increased headshot multiplier, which will be great with our 3. And we'll put on the correct Bane mod here. Bane of the Corrupted. All right, so we've got 225% crit chance with my Riven. And then remember, we've got increased crit damage as well. This is not accounting for that. We got 5.1 when we're not actually on the dash wire. When we're on the dash wire, increase that by another 225. So, yes, it is devastation. And I feel bad for these bombards, guys. All right, so let's do the trick. Let's make sure we're in the light. So we got our buff. We're going to go in Viz. Now we keep our big damage buff. And don't forget, you can slide on these dash wire arrows, potentially to make it a little bit more mobile for you. Alright, so let's pick a victim here. We've got this guy right here. He looks pretty easy to kill. So there's supposed to be a slash proc after that. But they can't survive it. Yeah, so I'm sure you can see how crazy this can get in the long run. Now we have fully stacked up Deadhead. I mean, these numbers look small. It's because you're seeing one number. I'm shooting like 5-6 bullets, and they have a guaranteed slash proc afterward. Or I think it's like a 70% guaranteed slash proc. So there we go. He was over. This is not even an AoE weapon, really, but it killed that guy with, AoE on the Kuva Shakur, which is not even that big. So yeah, pretty good, pretty good. If these guys were strong enough to survive this, you'd be seeing a 1,000,000+ damage slash proc. I'm trying to think if there's any enemy we can spawn here that can face tank it. Let's try a Nox Eximus, one of the chunkiest dudes. All right, hopefully he doesn't have an ice bubble. All right, trick again. And there's other weapons you can do too. Let's see, what would be good? Basically all your good AoE stuff. The Stropha, the melee weapon that is like basically a gunblade. I mean, what was that number? That number looked crazy high. This is with, I think, we have Band the Grenadier in here. Okay, so you could technically have a little bit better of a ribbon than the one I have. But did that look bad to you? I mean, pretty good to me. Yeah, so I know it's a stationary playstyle and all that. And some people might not like that, but so you could do that all day long. A lot of people might not like it because it's a stationary playstyle, but you know it is extremely effective. You know, lots of AoE weapons, as long as you silence them, that is, will be top tier here. Arcaplasmor, you'll be clearing out hallways in one shot easily. You know, Envoy got pretty good crit damage at base. Tenant Tetra, if you, hey, I almost forgot this thing existed. You could probably use this too. Tonkor, Brahma is the one we showed in the video. The Shakur is hilarious. Zar, as always. I probably wouldn't go with the Ogress because the Ogress is not really, like, look at that 9% crit chance comparing it to the Kuva Shakur, we're at 50, so not really exactly what you're trying to go for, but I'm sure you could make it work. And yeah, basically, the world is your oyster. What do you want to run? Just go for it, pretty much. Alright guys, hopefully you found this video helpful. I found this playstyle really useful and fun, and it can be something that you might want to try out if you just, you know, want a pretty chill time. I'm in the corner. I'm blowing enemies away. They don't even know where I am, but I know where they are, and they're all dead. And then more enemies will come in to resupply, and you can just keep farming and farming and farming, get that steel essence and that kuva. All right, guys. I think I covered everything I wanted here. If I forgot something, whatever. If you have any name ideas for this build, let me know in the comments down below. I really couldn't think of anything. I was thinking Shadow of the Eclipse, because you can pretty much cheese the Eclipse buff while you're in invisibility to always be high damage. I don't know. Something like that. Either way, guys, thanks for all the support lately. Take it easy and peace.